Hello, welcome to Board Game Bonkers. I'm Jay Sears, and today we're going to take a look at top 10 value for base board games that are £20 or less. Now, I have done a little bit of cheating here because I've combined a couple of games because they kind of fit in very similar to one another. So keep that in mind, as well as some of these games at the time of checking the price points were on sale, but some of these frequently go on sale. Because please keep that in mind as we go through the list, and I'll explain which games were the ones that were on sale. Now, as always, I do appreciate those who subscribe to the channel, so thank you so much. If you're new and just come onto this channel, this video, then please do consider subscribing for more content like this. We do want you to be part of the community. So without the list, let's get to the list. Now, I have got an honourable mention. I don't normally do this, but I was toying between adding this to the list and taking another one off, and I felt they were all good. It was really tough, this list. So let's start with my honourable mention, and that is Stella. Now, Stella costs £15, which is a great price point for this game. This is a card game. So in Stella, your stargazer's choosing a card from the fairies ones laid out. So there'll be cards laid out, you'll be picking one of those cards to play into your telescope and your notebook that you've got. And what you'll be doing is building a kind of night sky tableau made of planets, moons, asteroids, interstellar clouds and black holes as you create this really beautiful display of the night sky. So it's a bit of set collection, trying to get cards close to one another. You're creating this telescope of the night sky. It looks amazing, and you're trying to work out which cards you need that will go where and trying to maximize your points. Really good game, quite straightforward in how it plays, but still a little bit of strategy in the gameplay. And £15, I really highly recommend it. It's beautiful and looks stunning. Check it out, that's Stella. So let's now move on to our top 10 list, starting with our number 10, and that is Codenames. Now, I'm not talking about duet code names, talking about the standard code names. Now, you can pick this up for around £12. The prices fluctuate, but sometimes it'll get in the sale at £12, which is an absolute bargain. I've introduced to many people who are non-gamers and absolutely love the game. So whether you're a new gamer, but perhaps you want something for your family, or even something light for yourselves, have a bit of fun, definitely check it out, Codenames. So what do you do in Codenames? So there are two key teams that will be competing to see who can make contact with all their agents first. So i.e. that's identifying, the correct cards that are laid out. So there'll be 25 of those cards laid out in the grid, now each bearing a single word in them, and players in each team will choose someone to be the spy master who will look at a card that identifies the location of specific cards laid out. That's ones with one word clues, and that particular card that the spy master's got will have blue or red squares on it. And what they were doing is giving a clue to which cards that are located where that must relate to what the spy master's got in their hand. We're giving a clue to their teammates that they need to guess. So the clue will consist of a single word and a number, with the number suggesting how many cards in play have some association to that given word clue. So it might, for example, it might be a word clue to do with, holiday, 2. So then the team's got to figure out, two cards relate to holiday. Oh, there's a beach, we'll pick a beach. There's the sun, we'll pick the sun. And that's what you're trying to do. Now, if the team ever pick what's called the assassin, then they're out, and that's got a big X on the card that the spy master will have. Really good, simple game that definitely involves a bit of teamwork, but it works best when you know the players in your team, because you know how they're thinking in terms of the clues that the spy master's given you. Because sometimes you have to think out the box and you have to be a little bit more sporadical in the clues you're given. Really good, fascinating game. Definitely check it out. £12 is an absolute steal. So let's now move on to our next one. That is our number 9, and that is Lovecraft Letter. Now, I'm cheating here because generally you can't pick this up for less than £23, but Love Letter you can. You usually pick this up for about £12 sometimes. So what is Lovecraft Letter? And the reason why I'm recommending this is because I think it's got a little bit more depth to it with special powers that Love Letter doesn't. Now, Lovecraft Letter is kind of based on the Love Letter system. Essentially, it's the same, and it's got Lovecraft theme to it. So in addition to that standard 16 cards, now you've also got the special insanity power cards. Now, if you have one of these in your discard pile, then you're considered insane, well, for that round anyway. And then on future turns, you can play insanity cards. Now, that will give you a special ability. Now, the more options that you'll then have, the problem is, and there's a big risk here, is that As you undergo that insanity check, now at the start of each of your turns, because you've got insanity cards, you'll be drawing as many cards from the deck as the number of insanity cards that are in front of you. Now, if you ever draw an insanity card from that deck, then you're out the round. So there's a risk, but you can also get special ability powers if you've got insanity cards in play. Really fascinating twist and love letter, but either one is fine. You especially want an introductory and a simpler card game than love letter, pick that one up. But you want something that's got a little bit more to it, then Lovecraft letter is the better choice. So let's move on now to number 8. And I have mashed 2 games together. These are 2-party games, and either one is fine. They're both slightly different, but they both give an absolutely excellent fun factor. So those are So Clover coming in at £18, and Just One at £16. So let's talk first about So Clover and what you do in it. It's a cooperative word association game, okay? So you can have 4 keyword cards that are drawn, and they're placed on a clover board, and each player secretly writes on their clover board the common feature that associates with words on the cards. So it's one word, they'll be writing on the clover board, there's 4 sides, and you try to figure out what that one word to those 2 words that are on the cards are associated with. Then players try to figure out each player's keywords that are written on the clover board. Now you're given 1-word clues that are written on the clover for each side, so the players need to figure out which one word or on 2 cards, because you place them in the clover, relates to that specific clue, because there's 4 words on each card. So you're trying to rotate around and figure it out. Really fascinating stuff, clever system, and it's a lot tougher than you think. So what is Just One, and what do you do in it? Well, it's a cooperative party game, and all in a big team, okay? And what you're trying to do is discover as many mystery words as possible. So what do you mean? Well, the goal is to try and get 13 points. That's what you're trying to do. Now, each round, one player draws a card and chooses a number from 1 to 5. Without looking at the cards, they have no idea what's on it, but all the other players can see what's written next to the number on that card. They then write down a word on their little board that they've got that relates to the word that's on the card. So it might be, for example, it might be a word that says bread, and they might think, right, I'm going to write toast, and another player might put jam, butter. Problem is you can't communicate at that point, so you have no idea what your other players and your team are actually writing down. Now, the interesting point is that players then reveal their bows to one another, and anything that is not unique is removed. So if there's 2 words that say toast, then those are removed. So the player who initially drew that card with the numbers listed, they don't know what words have been removed. So they're only going to be presented with the words that are unique and aren't the same as other words. Now, all other words are then shown to that player who drew the card, and obviously in the case of right answer, the players get a point, okay? That's what we're trying to do. Now, if it's a wrong answer, you lose the current card as well as the top card of the deck, and that's 2 points lost. So you're trying to get those 13 cards that gives you the 13 points. And it's a lot trickier than you think, because you sometimes have to be unique with the answer you give that associates to the word on the card. Really fascinating, clever stuff. Both games are fantastic. Highly recommend either one of them or even both of them. So let's now move on to our next one, number 7. Again, I'm cheating here a little bit. I've got 2 games because they're kind of similar-ish. That is either the Coop at £12 and Resistance at £10. Fantastic bargain for both. That's a party-themed style game, very sociable game. So what do you do in Coop? Let's start off with that. So you want to be the last player with influence in the game. Now, what is influence? Well, influence is represented by face-down character cards in your play area. And what you'll be doing is relatively straightforward. Is on your turn, you can take any of the actions listed on the character cards, okay? So you can choose one of them, regardless if you actually have it in front of you. You don't have to have it in front of you. You've got a list of all the actions that they do. Or you can take one of 3 other actions. So you can either take some income, which is a gold coin for treasury, or you take a foreign aid, which is a couple of coins, a little bit different, or you have to, if you've got 7 coins or more, you have to do a coup, and that's, I'll explain what a coup is in just a second. So when you take one of the card actions, whether it's actively on your turn or you use it as a defense mechanism, okay, that character's action automatically succeeds, okay, unless an opponent challenges you, okay, and this is an important bit. So what you're trying to do is challenge other players. So when a player challenges you, so what they'll be doing is guessing what characters you don't have. So you can have cards laid out in front of you, 2 cards, and the player's going to try and guess which character cards you don't have. So if you can, or you don't reveal the appropriate character, you lose an influence. That means you're turning over one of your character cards face up, so it makes it easier for the other players to figure out what you might not have. Now, face-up character cards can't be used for their ability then, but if both of your characters are face-up, you're out of the game, so you're trying to avoid that. Now, if you don't have the character in question and choose to reveal it, the opponent loses influence, and then you shuffle that character into the deck and draw a new one, perhaps getting the same character again, so it changes it. So the last player to still have influence, i.e. a card that's face down, wins the game. Really fascinating, I really enjoy it, and it's a little bit different than your usual games. Now let's talk about resistance. So what do you do in the resistance? The players are either resistant operatives or you'll be Imperial spies. There's two different teams, but it's a bit like Werewolf. You don't know what team you're in until you've got that card that tells you, but you can't tell other players. For 3 to 5 rounds, you must depend on each other to carry out missions against the Empire. And what you're trying to do is at the same time, you must try to deduce the other players' identities. So each round begins with discussion. You have a discussion, and when ready, the leader sets, whoever the leader is, sets a plan to set a number of players, so it might even be themselves. They choose a number of players saying, right, you're going to be dealing with this mission. Every player votes on whether or not to approve the assignment. So that's really an interesting twist in this. Now, once the assignment passes, the chosen players secretly decide to support or sabotage the mission. Of course, you're hoping to get the players that are going to be on your team. Now, based on results, if the mission succeeds, that means the resistant wins. And if it fails, the Empire wins. Now, when the team, depending on what side you're on, wins 3 of those missions, then you've won the game. Both are really good. I highly recommend trying them out at least once. So let's now move on to our next one, and that's number 6, Red Cathedral, which comes in at £20. This is a kind of light to medium weight Euro style game. So in Red Cathedral, players become construction teams. So what you'll be doing is you'll be kind of erecting this cathedral in Moscow, which is St. Basil's. Now, throughout the game, players will strategically choose from 3 actions. Now, you can either claim a section of the cathedral, I'll explain that in a moment, send resources to that section to build it, so I'll explain that in a second, or you can go to the main board to kind of get more resources. That's using dice. I'll explain that in a second. So each of these kind of use different mechanisms. So the first action I explained. So what you do is, as you claim cathedral sections, you'll be taking spaces and columns, and what you'll be trying to do is accumulate more points for those completed sections with distinctive towers. Now, for the second action, you'll send resources to claim sections, which result in getting rewards, you might get money or prestige points. Now, the third one, which is interesting, that is the main game board, which gives you, showcases a rondel of the Red Cathedral. What you'll be doing is you'll be, I'll give you different resources, I'll give you guild favours, I'll give you professional aid. And what you'll be doing is trying to strategically select the dice from the rodel, and you move it spaces to gather the certain resources, depending on the spaces you move it. Really fascinating mechanism. It's a decent, solid Euro game, definitely worth checking out, certainly at £20. You can't go wrong with it. So let's now move on to our number 5. We get into the top 5, and this is Innovation. It comes in at £15. Now, recently there has been a Kickstarter of the new version that's come out with some slight little tweaks. But essentially, doesn't matter whichever version, if you get the version 4 or you get the version 3, there isn't much difference, to be honest, with them. So you can pick this up for about £15. I definitely recommend having a look at it. So in Innovation, each player builds a civilization based on various technologies, ideas, and cultural advancements. Now, these are all represented by cards, okay? So we've got all these laid out in cards. Now, you'll be obviously selecting one of these cards and you'll be upgrading. So each of these cards has a kind of unique power which allow kind of further advancement and development of your technologies, and they give you point scoring, and even attacking other civilizations, and other civilizations will be able to benefit from your ideas as well, because certain cards give you power and abilities to do this. Now, to win, you're going to try and score achievements which are on the card. You're trying to build up and advance your technology. So essentially, you're using a card to then build another advancement, then build this advancement, and you're trying to get more and better technologies and ideas developed. Really fairly straightforward game to play with quite a bit of strategical thinking that goes into it. Certainly check it out. That's Innovation. So let's move on to our number 4. And again, I've cheated a bit here. But 2 games, essentially, these are more or less identical. And that is Star Realms, which comes in at £15, and Hero Realms, a little bit more expensive at £18. Essentially, it's the same game. I much prefer the theme of Hero Realms. It's got just a couple of little tweaks, but essentially it's the same game, so you can go for which one you prefer. So in Star Realms, not Star Realms, sorry, in Hero Realms, each player starts the game with 10 cards in their deck. And that's got gold for buying, or you've got weapons, which is for combat. And at the start of each turn, you'll be drawing 5 of those cards from your deck. And there's also a market card, which is about 80 cards you'll be drawn out. So 5 of those cards to have a look at what's in the market roll. And what you'll be trying to do is buy cards from that market roll. So you'll be playing cards such as your gold to buy champions and action cards from the market. Now these champions and actions can give you larger amounts of gold. They give you lots of combat and powerful effects that you can use. You'll be using combat cards to try and attack your opponent and reduce their health down to 0. So it's got this kind of back and forth 1 versus 1 element to it. Really good, clever game, really like it. If you like kind of deck building and smaller kind of combat deck building games at 1 versus 1, definitely check it out. So let's now move on to our number 3. And that is Pandemic, coming in at £20. If you're not familiar with Pandemic, it's a classic family weight game. Highly recommend it, but it might not be everyone's cup of tea because you'll be curing diseases. So in Pandemic, players will take on a unique role in the teams or have unique abilities. You might, for example, you might be the medic that can clear 3 cubes in one city of the same colour. Now, players must plan their kind of strategy to try and cure 4 diseases. Now, on each turn, what you'll be doing is players can use up to 4 actions to travel between cities. You can treat infected cities, which is by removing a cube. You can discover a cure, that's by going to a research centre and discarding 4 cards from your hand of the same colour. Or you can build a research station, that's by discarding a card from your hand that matches the city you're in. So you need research centres to obviously find a cure. Now what you'll be doing is a deck of cards also provides the players to be able to use these abilities. So you'll be drawing 2 cards at the end of your turn, and in that deck you will have epidemic cards, and that will accelerate and intensify this diseases that will be coming out. That will say, you then have to reveal cards from this deck, which will then tell you how many of those virus cubes you need to place out. You'll have to do that at the end of each turn anyway, but the epidemic deck gets you to bring out more cards, so there's a higher risk of an outbreak, and there's more than 3 disease cubes in a city, there's an outbreak. That's one of the conditions to lose. And also you will lose if you run out of your combined deck of cards that players draw up to the end of every turn. Really fascinating cooperative game. It works really well. One of the classics, highly recommend it. And this price, £20, definitely recommend it, as you can pick it up at that price point. Let's move on to our number 2, and that is probably the best 2-player board game around, and that's 7 Wonders Duel. And you can pick this up for as little as £17 in the sale. Fantastic bargain. If not, generally it's around about £25, £26, but £17, an absolute steal. It is one of the best games you will ever play. It's based on the 7 Wonders system, but for me, this is much, much better. Now in 7 Wonders Duel, what you'll be doing, you'll be playing it over 3 areas. Now at the start of each of these, cards are laid out in a kind of pyramid system with every other row of cards face down. Now each player will then start with 4 wonder cards each. They'll be drafted in the game. Now you can only build up to 7 wonders in the game, hence the name 7 Wonders. So one player is obviously going to be worse off, and they'll give you abilities once they're built as well. The players will then purchase resources. You can do this at any time from the bank. And you can discard cards that give you gold, etc. Now you'll then gain different cards from that pyramid system, and you must be selecting the face-up cards that are not covered by another card, so i.e. the bottom row. Now any cards that were face down and not covered up will then be revealed. And these cards will provide different types of resources. They might help to give you some points. The blue ones might give you gold, the yellow ones might give you science, which is the green ones, or military, which is the red ones. Now a player can win 7 Wonders Duel in 3 different ways. That's by advancing to the end of the military track. Now when you're going up the military track, you also gain bonus tiles, or the kind of discs, that will give you certain kind of powers and abilities. Or you can acquire any 6 of the 7 different science symbols, and that allow you to win the game. Those are the green cards. Or the third way you can win is by accumulating the most points, and that essentially is the blue cards that are going to give you the most points. So there's 3 different ways, really fascinating. And which way do you do? Sometimes you have to wait until you see what cards have been revealed from the ones that are face down. Sometimes that could be lucky because you don't know what might be coming up. And especially at the last era, you don't want the player to get that extra science symbol, that last one. So you're hoping that that card that pops out and is revealed is not a science symbol. Really fascinating, fantastic game. Highly recommend checking it out. So let's move on to a final one, or number 1. Now, this is a game that was in the sale, okay, coming in at £10. Now, I will say this, even at the normal price point, around £25 to £30, I still think it's a good, solid game. It's a classic. I really, really like this game, and that is Pillars of the Earth. And at £10, it's an absolute steal. So in Pillars of the Earth, players are builders, and what you're doing is contributing to the cathedral's construction. Essentially, it looks like an erected penis, which is used as a timer. That's what you were doing, is placing a block each time. But essentially the theme is you're building and contributing to this construction. So during the game, what you'll be doing at the start of each round is, in turn order, players will either choose a worker card from one of the many available and laid out. So I think it's 8 that's laid out. And then which will indicate a number on that card of how many workers you need to send out to gather those resources. And then you place those workers on the main board to collect the resources. Now, the other option is you can buy one of the 2 available craftsmen that will be out at the start of each round. Also, which is unique about this game, and I haven't really seen this much in any other games, and given this is a game that came out in 2006, after you've done that, one player will then draw out a master builder from a bag, and they can choose to pass and place it back into the bag, because it might not be the colour that they want to come out, might not be theirs. Well, it might be theirs and they don't want to be paying the high cost to go first. Now, the master builder that is pulled out of the bag is then placed onto the ring at the first point, and the colour of the piece represents the player whose it is, can choose to pay the cost indicated or decline. Now, if they decline, they still place the master builder in that position, but they have to move the black disc 1 space clockwise. That means the next space will be for the next player to then decide if they want to be paying that cost to go next. Now, if the player pays the indicated cost, he can place the master builder on a worker placement spot on the main board immediately. Now, when the black marker reaches the 0 mark, every master builder that comes out of the bag thereafter is placed on the board in that order immediately. And every remaining master builder after that's been done, that's still on the ring, is then placed and going in anti-clockwise order onto the main board. Now, of course, if you pay the cost straight away, you would go straight away placing that master builder on. So you're trying to work out when do you use your gold and when do you keep it back. Now, during the game, players will then be using their workers to collect materials that have been placed out, the woods, the stone, etc., and then using craftsman cards to convert those materials into points, essentially exchanging this good into these points. Now, workers can also be used to produce like gold as well, that gives you currency. Really fascinating, great game. Streamlined, and it's got this order of resolving actions. It goes from number 1, I think, all the way up to number 12, I can't remember, and then you go in order. So you're working out in the order that goes in when you can benefit, because you think, I've not got enough gold to do this, but we're going to trigger this first so that I can get gold here first to give me the gold and then do this action. Really fascinating. I really like it. Highly recommend getting this at £10. Definitely give it a go. Now, I hope you've enjoyed that. We will be doing other top 10 value for base board games at different price points. It was really difficult doing this list, and it was really difficult trying to find a generic list. It's impossible, because it'd be unfair. The smaller games are getting crushed by these big, grandiose games that will have much superior strategy and depth to them. But I hope you enjoyed this, and a few games in here I definitely recommend considering getting perhaps some loved ones or some friends and family at Christmas time. Now, if you enjoyed videos like this, please do consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already done so, and give our videos a thumbs up. We really do appreciate it. And let us know in the comments down below. Are there any particular games on this list that you would recommend others checking out? Perhaps we've missed some games that you think we should have included on the list. Please let us know in the comments down below what those are. Until next time, my name's Jay Sears. Take care.